Lupus LA would like to thank our generous sponsors for their support of the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals is focused on managing complexity and improving lives. Their work in the autoimmune space is critical to finding new and innovative treatments for lupus. Emerge Business Solutions serves as a personal and professional CFO for clients across a wide spectrum of industries. They handle financial affairs with integrity and transparency. Lupus LA is proud to work hand in hand with Emerge to manage all of its financial needs. Gemini Beauty believes in beauty for a cause, and in their case, the cause is lupus, creating products to specifically address the needs of lupus patients, but with broad appeal across all skin types. The team at Gemini is changing the skincare game for good. Gemini Beauty also donates 10% of their profits to Lupus LA, so you know your purchase is helping lupus patients and their families. Find the gem in you. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lupus LA podcast, Your Story, Our Fight. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors for allowing us to tell all of these incredible stories from lupus patients. And it is my great pleasure to introduce you to another fantastic lupus patient. Zuriel Gibson is joining us today. Zuriel is an author, a lupus coach, which we're going to talk about, and a lupus patient. So welcome to the show, Zuriel.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great today. You're joining us from Houston, Texas. So your baseball team is making all your fellow Texans very happy.
Oh, yes. It is live here in Houston. Everybody is really excited for this. So, yes, I am definitely here for it.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about, I know you were diagnosed in the late 90s in high school. And so tell me, how did that come about? What led to your lupus diagnosis?
Oh, you just going to start off with my age, huh? So we could go there.
No, I didn't say. That's true. I guess I did do that. I apologize.
Okay. That's okay. I just had a birthday. It's totally fine. No worries.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So, actually, my mom said she kind of put two and two together when I was growing up that I might have had lupus with the complaints that I had, because she used to tell me, we'll just tell Santa Claus to bring you all new body parts. And I was like, it hurt. She thought I was just a kid saying, I don't want to go to school. And I was like, well, yeah, that would be cool. But, hey. So I actually, after I graduated high school, I went to go stay with my dad, who was living in California, Moreno Valley, California, actually. My parents were divorced. Mm-hmm. So after I graduated, I lived with him, and I was there for quite some time, and I got really sick. I didn't know what was going on because I felt fine that morning, and then all of a sudden my body started hurting. I started to get weak. So I called my mom, who was an LVN. I was like, Mom, I don't know what to do. I can hardly breathe. What's going on? She says, hang up and dial 911. So I was in the mindset of, there's no way they're going to be able to get to me unless they break down the door, because I was getting just that weak. So I opened up the door after calling 911, and I sat there in front of the door until they got there, because, they had to literally pick me up and put me on the gurney. So I'm in and out on the way to the hospital. I know that because I love mountains. I'm a nature baby. So on the way to the hospital, I kept opening my eyes, and I was like, oh, how pretty is that? And then I closed my eyes. And by the time I woke up again, I was in the hospital and my mom was there. So you can only imagine how long I've been out. My mother was here in Houston, Texas, actually in the valley by the border of Mexico. And I was in Moreno Valley, California. So I was out for some hours for me to wake up, and I'm seeing my mom pacing back and forth. And they're telling her, ma'am, we don't know what's going on with her. Her body is shutting down. It looks like an elderly woman inside of there. We have no idea what's going on. My mom's freaking out. Yes, she's a nurse, but her child is about to die. She's trying to figure out what's going on. So she makes them test me for lupus. And their first response is, no, ma'am, she's not showing the signs for lupus, so there's no need to test her. But because the mother my God gave me, she made them very adamant, made them test me for lupus, and all my biomarkers came back positive. So that's when they started giving me the right medication, and I got the diagnosis of lupus.
You're not, our previous podcast guest has a very similar story. I think having a powerful mom, and my mom is included in that, she was a big advocate for me when I was diagnosed when I was 16. I think is one of the most critical parts of good lupus treatment, because parents know their kids, And what do you think your mom saw in you before this traumatic event that in the back of her mind, did you have family with lupus?
Well, my mother had lupus.
Your mother has lupus.
She had
Okay,
lupus,
right.
but she
Okay.
never put two and two together because, back then it was kind of like taboo. It just didn't come together. I would get like facial rashes, but they were light. And I was staying by the border of Mexico, and there was no one really my color, so they didn't know. They was like, "Well, she looks fine," and we're like, "This isn't normal." So I didn't get a real diagnosis, and she wasn't putting together the butterfly rash or anything like that. I just know that things would hurt. So for me, it became normal because, mom said Santa Claus will bring me new body parts. So, this is normal. You're supposed to go through some things in life, aches and pains, right? So
she's got both sides of the perfect mom, right? The we'll fix it, and then advocate. So you get this diagnosis. You're in the hospital. What was your mindset? Because at this point you're in high school, right?
I graduated. I had just graduated high school.
You just graduated high school. So what's your mindset as a new graduate of high school and hearing this diagnosis?
My life is over. That was my thought process, because I went when they finally gave me the medication, and I came to, the only thing I could really think about was food, because they weren't feeding me. And so, of course, I was mean to everybody. I was hangry. So, I'm worried about food. My dad comes in knight shining armor right before I leave, and he gives me a hamburger. So, of course, I love him because he's feeding me. So thereafter, my mom brings me back to Houston, and I end up staying with my grandmother. And the only thing I could do is sleep. I sleep and I get up and I go use the restroom, and I sleep, I get up and I go use the restroom, and I eat in between. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen to me, other than the fact that everybody's yelling at me that I'm sleeping too much. So I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I don't know how to fix it, and everybody's yelling at me. Mind you, I'm still a kid. I'm a baby, straight out of high school. I was like, my mother was strict enough as it is. Now I'm stuck in this situation. It's like, what the heck? So, after I was coming out of that stupor, I guess you can say, because when you first get diagnosed, they put you on all these medication. So it really plays with your mind of not knowing where you are and who you are for a lot of period of times, because you're asleep most of the time. But when I started to come above that cloud, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to live life the best way that I can. And I did that for a little while. And I'm going to the doctor's appointments and everything like that. But then I get to a point where I see a doctor and he tells me, hey, I'm looking at all your paperwork. You're going to die at 24. Mind you, I just made it to my 20s. And he said it in such a nonchalant way that I'm like, do you realize how old I am and what you're telling me? He says, yes, you need to go home and deal with that, because you're not going to make it past 24. So I thought I would, well, fine, if I'm going to die, I'm going to do everything that I think that I want to do in life, because like I said, I had a strict mom, so I wasn't able to go anywhere. I wasn't able to have a boyfriend. I wasn't able to do anything. So I did everything I probably shouldn't have did and can't say on this podcast. So, so I was out there. That's what I was thinking. It's the end of the line for me. I don't know what else to do. The doctor says I'm going to die. And I hadn't told anyone in my family. I went to the doctor by myself. So I was freaked out and dealing with this by myself. So I was in that mindset for a very long time. But mind you, I told you I just had a birthday. I'm 45. So, I made it past that. I might have made it past that.
Yes, you did. So I have two questions for you. Well, I have more questions, but I had two immediate questions. When you were growing up, your mom and her lupus, what do you remember seeing from her? Did you what vision did you have of lupus as a disease when you were a kid?
Had no idea she had lupus. Had no idea. My mother had asthma. So when she went through spouts, we thought, oh, she's having an asthma attack. You get her asthma pump, she rests, and but my mom was like Superwoman. She was a single parent. She had 3 kids. and she took on my cousins, and her getting sick, she didn't show us that. So when I got diagnosed, I had no clue what was going on, and she had an idea of it, but again, we didn't talk. She didn't share a lot of that with me, so I didn't know what I was going through except for the tidbits that she would feed me along the way. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't really see her sick except for when she was tired. When she was tired, you knew to be quiet, because mom has to sleep. But you would think that because she worked all the time, so you had to be quiet.
And when you got your diagnosis, did she share a lot more with you? Did you guys have this conversation like this? Okay, here's under the curtain, look at what I've been dealing with.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
He took me to my grandmother's house, who did not know what lupus was. Didn't understand why I was so tired all the time. My grandmother's old school. She's like, what did she say? Sleeping takes your life. You sleeping your life away. You need to get up. So she didn't want me to just lay around. So she didn't understand that I wasn't feeling good. Walk around, shake it off, So I didn't have the one conversation that I had with my mom. I was on a medication from a doctor, and it blew me up to well over 200 pounds. Now, I've been a big girl before, gain, loss, or whatever. So I blew up to over 200 something pounds to the point where it got, my cousin would make fun of me because she was like, if I get a pin and stick you, are you just going to blow away like a balloon do? Because I was just this little round butterball.
Right.
And my mom comes in and she was like, well, you need to ask them for a water pill. I was like, what's that? Because they had me on all these different type of medications. So I went to the doctor. I asked her about I told her, I was like, I'm large. I've never been this big before. She says, don't worry, you're just fat. I said, no. I've been fat. This is something different. This is different.
Right.
Just amazed by what these doctors would say, to you. But that was when my mom, she gave me that bit of advice about the water pill. And I had stopped taking, because the lady told me I was fat. She wasn't giving me a water pill. She just told me I was fat. So I stopped taking the medication. About 3 months later, when I was due to come see her again, I had dropped all the weight because I stopped taking the medication. She's like, oh, you look great. What do you do? I said, stop taking your pills. So she put on my paperwork that I was not compliant. So all my doctors treated me differently thereafter. But my mom gave me that bit of advice of, you need a water pill. You need to do something about this. Something's going on with you. So, yeah. She would just give me spurts.
Yeah. It's amazing how many stories we hear about in the insensitivity of some of the doctors. My hope is that this is a long time ago that most of us were diagnosed. So I'm hoping that the doctors have, or most of these doctors are more sympathetic and understanding
that
these
days. Was a booger. You're looking at them and it's just like, man, really? I'm telling you what's happening here.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. So, all right. So I want to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and I want to talk to you about, you get this news from your doctor that, you've got 4 years left to live. And now how did we go from that to lupus coach and author and all of that stuff? So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back with more from Zuriel Gibson.
Lupus LA's fellowship program is an essential part of ensuring the training of future rheumatologists. The nation is experiencing a serious shortage of pediatric rheumatologists. Today, there are approximately 300,000 children diagnosed with rheumatic conditions in the United States, but only about 250 practicing pediatric rheumatologists to meet this tremendous need. Call 310-657-5667 or visit our website at lupusla.org to support the efforts of Lupus LA.
We are back on the Lupus LA podcast, Your Story, Our Fight, talking to Zuriel Gibson. And before the break, we found your doctor had given you this I don't want to say death sentence, but basically told you that you didn't have long to live. Now, one question about that popped into my head just a second ago. Did you have organ involvement? Did he say this is why or he just said this disease is that bad and see you later?
Well, a lot of my organs, even when I was first diagnosed, my organs were not all where they should be. and then they were doing something different, like, just not acting as normal, as they would say. So by the time I went to him, it was for my liver and some other things from what I can remember. And he just looked at me and like I was a lost cause.
So you have this epiphany. You say, I'm going to do everything possible make the best of these next 4 years. At what point did you realize, you know what, maybe that doctor, he wasn't correct. And I've got, many, many years ahead of me. And in terms of what brought you to this, like, all right, I'm going to help other lupus patients?
I did not come out of my stupor until after I hit 24. So I hit 24 and I was like, I woke up. Oh my God. Okay. So maybe he was off a little bit. So I'm waiting,
Right.
I'm waiting for this massive thing to happen to me or die in my sleep or something, based off of, they tell you to listen to the doctor. The doctor knows, you listen to the doctor. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm tripping, it's just whatever. So I'm waiting for it. I kept waking up. So it was like, okay, so apparently I'm supposed to be here because I'm still here. And I'm still in awe every time I have a birthday that I literally made it this far compared to because it wasn't just the doctor, it was several other people, because I was in and out of the hospital so much. But that was me adjusting to my body and listening and not knowing about the different medications and the side effects and the medication for the side effects and all this other type of stuff. So I'm still in awe. Just having a birthday, I did a relaxation thing and a reflection of, I actually made it to 45 years old. It's like then you look back to who hasn't made it to 45, and then look back on all the things that I had actually been through compared to where I am, and what made me put me on the track of wanting to help other people was the simple fact that after the doctor put non-compliant on my record and the doctor started treating me different, it was like an aha moment. Okay, I have to do something for myself because they're not trying to help me. So as I started doing things for myself, and my mom was telling me about detoxing and things like that, because she was big on detox and herbs and things like that. So, okay, and the way we ate, we ate a lot of fruits and vegetables. I didn't think anything of it. So she started telling me about things like that. And I was like, as I did that and I started to feel better, and they stopped seeing biomarkers in me, literally stopped seeing biomarkers in me for lupus. So I was like, wow. So if I'm on this side of the spectrum, let me go tell the world. I want to know, whoever doesn't know, it'd be like, guess what? You can do this and you can do that. Not taking into consideration of the pushback that I might get, because I pushed back when people tried to tell me things and not thinking that somebody would push me back, thinking because I went through it, So again, that's I learned that, it's a mental thing as well, because, when you're diagnosed with lupus, it's like starting your life over as a baby, learning from scratch, learning your body, and also the things that, you have to learn mentally. And when you get diagnosed, you've been traumatized from so many different things that you don't realize what you bring over into this part of your life that you're trying to figure out. So I wanted to be able to help people understand that, you get mean, you don't sleep, you got a lack of oxygen to your brain. Of course you're going to be mean. Then the medication doesn't help as well. So understanding the mental aspect, and then, detoxing and replenishing, and, learning those different steps that you need to take for exercise. I actually had one lady who yelled at me when I started promoting exercise. She was like, well, I can't get out of the bed. I said, but you're able to text this message. So you have to start somewhere,
Yep. No, I think that's a really valuable point, that, and the title of your book, Warrior by Nature, I think anybody who's listened to the first 20 minutes of this podcast can tell you that that's you. And so what do you hope to bring, other than your infectious spirit, what do you hope to bring through the book to a lupus patient who reads it?
Thank you for that. In this book, it talks about a lot of traumatic things that I went through in life before lupus. And it shows that from day one, we have a warrior that is built on the inside of us. And there's ways that you can cross over to understand that. Now, when we cross over, we have to be able to reflect, because you don't see it looking forward. You see what you've been through when you look back. And then going over in this book, like I have a program, 7 Keys to Finding the Warrior Within, that you never knew you had. I never knew I had it, thinking that I was going to die at 24. But here I am. I've been through so many things, and people looking at me like, how are you still alive and sane, like in your right mind and not taking medication? I was like, I found the fight that's in me, and I want people to understand that it's not just me, it's you as well. If you're still waking up in the morning and you make it through the next day, you fought to make it through that day. Whether it's little, big, a medium, whatever, you are a warrior, literal warrior from within. And I want people to understand that there are 7 keys that you can actually follow to understand where your warrior is, how to bring it out of you, and how to live with it.
Now, I don't want to give away the book. Is that something where you can let us in on what those 7 things are? Or should we? Maybe I should have people read the book. Give me the first 2.
Well, of course, for me, I pray. Prayer is the number one thing. And when you come into prayer, you come into focus. You have to be able to focus where you want to be, not where you are, but where you want to be. Because when you get out of your own self-pity of where you are, you're able to take your next step to where you want to be. So that's beginning stages right there.
Does that include meditation, or is that a different step? Or you know what I mean? Is prayer, meditation, same thing? Right.
Prayer can be considered a meditation for a lot of people, because when I talk about prayer, when I pray, a lot of people, when they hear prayer, they're thinking just having a conversation, as in you speaking. They don't understand that in prayer, it's also listening. That's meditation. You have to hush. You have to hush your mind, your mouth, everything, for you to actually hear what you need to hear so that you can move forward. How are you going to know if you don't ask the question and then wait for the answer? If you're just asking the question and you never wait for the answer, how do you know which direction to move? So yes, that is a meditative side. Yes.
All right. We won't go through all the other 6 because I don't want to ruin the book for people. But I wonder what you would say. So you do private lupus coaching, right? So what does that entail? That's on the phone, on Zoom.
We can do over the phone or on Zoom, or we can even do in person. It just depends on where you are. So I know because of the pandemic, a lot of people, even myself, we do a lot of Zoom. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But, we also have sterile environments where we can go somewhere like to a park if you're comfortable, because some people still like that one-on-one contact. Like they want to be able, if they needed to, they could reach out and touch. When we lost that, we lost a lot of our humanity in the sense of a loving touch, that you might get from a parent or something. So a lot of us still need that, because it's one of our love languages. Our life is wrapped around love one way or another, and you want your love languages to be met, whether it's from your significant other or from your friend. It doesn't matter. So yes, I do make sure that I understand what those love languages are. I do what I can in my position to make sure that you're understanding how you, not me teaching you, but how you already know what you need to do moving forward. And so I make sure that I get that either. I like I said, I do phone. I prefer Zoom or in person, but I do it over the phone because some people, can do that.
And what does coaching typically entail? Is it sort of a hands-on, take you through your 7 steps, and is it sort of a weekly thing, monthly thing, or it depends on the patient?
So I have one program that is for 90 days. It's once a week. You get homework. And we come back together, we go over that homework, we go over your week and what your progress is. It's very detailed in that way, because I want to make sure you understand. And see, I've learned that a lot of people will talk and tell you what to do, but they won't give you the steps in order to achieve it. And I want to make sure that people have the steps in order to achieve the actual goal. Now, whether you choose to do it or not, totally up to you. But the steps have been given to you because you can either use it now or you'll have it to use later. Because I have the book, the workbook is coming out, and also a little pin to it, so it'll be a nice little Christmas present. So, but yes,
excellent.
It'll be 90 days. It'll be 90 days once a week, and homework is important. I understand we all have busy lives, but your life is more important than anything in order to live that life.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So tell me, without going into all the details, tell me what you would say to a brand new, newly diagnosed 17-year-old girl in Houston, Texas.
Your life is not over. It feels like it. You're gonna understand some things that you probably wouldn't thought of until you were older. Lupus diagnosis make you grow up because it makes you pay attention to what you need to pay attention to make your life better in life, to make your world better in the end. Now, at this very moment, you have an option to choose how your life wants to go, how you want your life to go. Now, not everybody can work a regular 9 to 5, and even if you could, I would start a business to help revolve around 1, your doctor's appointments, 2, if you get a flare up, or 3, if you just need to rest, like escape from the world. So I would encourage someone to want to look into that field. But if you don't, that's fine too, because there are jobs, especially as we're finding out now, that'll still work around your schedule where you're able to work from home. So a newly diagnosed person and someone just trying to get their footing, I would let them know it is not the end of the world. Yes, it seems like every time you take a step forward, you take 10 steps back. That is okay, because if that's the pattern you have to go, keep in mind you're still stepping forward.
I think that's very sage advice. And I thank you. We're going to put the links to the book and your website and all your stuff right underneath probably where we're talking right now. But thank you so much, Zuriel Gibson, for joining us today. I am super inspired by your positivity, your fight, and that's what this podcast is all about. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. Thank you.
On behalf of the entire team at Lupus LA, we thank you for joining the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. Please tune in, spread the word, and come back for more inspiring lupus stories. I'm your host, Adam Selkowitz, wishing you good health, and to always remember, your story is our fight.